Have you ever wondered why a certain narcissist in your life seems determined to destroy you? Do you find yourself questioning why they manipulate, deceive, and try to isolate you from those who care about you? Has this toxic person affected your relationships, your confidence, or even your sense of purpose? And here's the biggest question. Why is this person even in your life? Is there a deeper reason behind their actions? More importantly, what is the secret to overcoming their schemes and standing strong? In this story, we'll uncover 5 powerful ways God acts when a narcissist wants you dead. You'll discover the ancient, timeless principles that reveal how God provides, protects, and ultimately turns the enemy's own plans against them. So, if you're ready to break free from their control and walk in God's divine strategy for victory, stay with me. And before we dive in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, because here we uncover ancient wisdom that stands the test of time. Let's begin. 1. God puts the right people in your life to break isolation. One of the most powerful ways God works when a narcissist is trying to destroy you is by sending the right people into your life. Have you ever noticed that when you're going through the hardest battles, there are moments when someone steps in at just the right time? Maybe it was a friend who checked in on you when you felt completely alone, or a stranger who said something that lifted your spirit when you were at your lowest. That's not a coincidence. That's divine intervention. But here's the challenge. Narcissists thrive on isolation. They want to separate you from the people who can remind you of your worth, speak truth into your life, and help you see the reality of the situation. Have you ever found yourself pulling away from others, either because you're afraid they won't understand, or because the narcissist in your life has made you believe no one truly cares? That's exactly how the enemy works, by making you think you're alone when you're not. Now, let's talk about something we all deeply desire: connection. People want to be loved, valued, and understood. We crave relationships where we feel safe, where we don't have to walk on eggshells, where we are accepted as we are. This principle has helped so many people escape toxic situations because it reminds them that God never leaves His children to fight alone. He places people around us to encourage, support, and protect. But here's the key. You must be willing to recognize and embrace those people. C.S. Lewis once said, "Friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, 'What, you too? I thought I was the only one.' Isolation makes you believe no one understands what you're going through, but when God brings the right people, you realize you are not alone." This mindset is crucial because if you believe the lie that you're alone, you'll push away the very people God sends to help you. Have you ever ignored a call, turned down an invitation, or convinced yourself that no one really wants to be there for you? What if that was God trying to reach you through them? So what should you do when people around you are acting the wrong way? When they side with the narcissist, believe their lies, or fail to see the truth? Instead of isolating yourself further, lean into the ones who do see you, even if they are few. Trust that God is bringing the right people into your life at the right time. This principle will also help you appreciate the ones who truly stand with you. Sometimes, in the midst of pain, we focus so much on who betrayed us that we forget to be grateful for those who remained. Think about it. Have you been so focused on the narcissist's cruelty that you've overlooked the ones who genuinely care? Now, let's look at a biblical story that illustrates this principle. David and Jonathan. King Saul, driven by jealousy and rage, wanted David dead. He used manipulation, deception, and even spiritual arguments to justify his hatred. David could have felt completely alone, abandoned, and hopeless. But God sent Jonathan, Saul's own son, to protect and encourage him. Jonathan risked everything to warn David, to affirm his calling, and to remind him that God's plan for his life was bigger than Saul's hatred. The positive side? David was not alone. God placed a true friend in his life who helped him navigate a dangerous situation and ultimately fulfill his destiny. The negative side? If David had ignored Jonathan, refused his help, or isolated himself out of fear, he might have fallen into despair or been destroyed by Saul's schemes. So what can you do in a situation like this? Pray for discernment to recognize the people God has placed in your life, accept their help, and refuse to believe the lie that you're alone. God is always working behind the scenes, placing the right people in your path. Are you willing to recognize them? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next principle. In the next chapter, we'll uncover another powerful way God acts when a narcissist wants you destroyed. You don't want to miss it. 2. God gives you financial stability as a great gift. Have you ever noticed how narcissists try to control every aspect of a person's life, including their finances? They know that if they can keep you dependent, they can keep you trapped. Many people in toxic situations stay longer than they should, not because they don't want to leave, but because they feel like they can't afford to. But here's the good news. God is your provider. He doesn't just supply your spiritual needs, He also cares about your physical and financial well-being. The Bible is filled with stories of people who found themselves in desperate situations, only for God to step in and make a way. Now let's talk about something everyone truly wants: freedom. People don't just want money. They want the freedom that financial stability brings. The ability to make decisions without fear. The power to walk away from toxic environments. The peace of knowing that their needs will be met. This principle has helped so many people break free from manipulation and fear because it shifts their trust away from human sources and onto God. When you understand that your provision comes from God, you no longer have to depend on someone who tries to control you through money. C.S. Lewis once said, "He who has God and everything else has no more than he who has God alone." In other words, when God is your source, you already have everything you need, even before you see it. This mindset is crucial because without it, fear takes over. If you believe your survival depends on a narcissist, you will tolerate things you were never meant to endure. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I just need to stay a little longer until I can figure things out," or "I don't have any other options"? That's exactly where the enemy wants you, stuck in fear, unable to move. Knowing and applying this principle is life-changing. God doesn't just give you resources, He gives you wisdom on how to use them. Have you ever prayed, not just for more money, but for guidance on how to manage what you already have? What if the answer to your financial breakthrough isn't just in receiving more, but in learning to steward what you have differently? So what should you do when people are acting the wrong way? When they withhold money, manipulate you financially, or try to make you feel powerless? Instead of panicking, ask God for wisdom and provision. He may open unexpected doors, send help from unlikely places, or give you creative ideas to become self-sufficient. This principle will also help you appreciate what you have rather than focusing on what you lack. Sometimes in moments of stress, we forget to be grateful for the small provisions God has already given us. Do you have food today? A roof over your head? Even a little income? That's already evidence that God is working. Now let's look at a biblical story that illustrates this principle. Elijah and the widow in Zarephath, 1 Kings 17, 8-16. There was a famine in the land, and this woman had nothing left except a handful of flour and a little oil. She was preparing to eat her last meal with her son and then die. But God had other plans. He sent Elijah to her, and through an act of faith, she experienced supernatural provision. Her flour and oil never ran out. The positive side? God provided exactly what was needed, when it was needed. The widow and her son survived because she trusted God's instruction, even when it seemed impossible. The negative side? If she had given in to fear and refused to obey God's word, she and her son would have perished in the famine. So what can you do in a situation like this? Shift your trust from people to God. Seek wisdom, look for opportunities, and be open to the ways God might provide for you. Sometimes the answer isn't obvious, but it is always there. God is already making a way for you. Do you believe it? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next principle. In the next chapter, we'll uncover another powerful way God acts when a narcissist wants you destroyed. You don't want to miss it. 3. God reminds you that you are needed and have a purpose. Have you ever wondered why a narcissist works so hard to tear down your confidence? Why they belittle your dreams, mock your talents, and try to make you feel insignificant? It's because they know something that they don't want you to realize. You are needed, and you have a purpose. The enemy uses narcissists to convince you that you don't matter, that your life has no meaning, and that the world wouldn't notice if you disappeared. But that is a lie. The truth is, God has placed something inside of you that no one else can bring to this world. Now, let's talk about something people deeply desire: significance. Everyone wants to know that their life counts for something. We all want to believe that we are making a difference, that we are fulfilling a purpose beyond just existing. And here's the beautiful truth: you were created for a reason, and no one can take that away from you. This principle has helped so many people break free from emotional and psychological bondage, because once you understand your worth in God's plan, no insult, no manipulation, and no lie from the enemy can shake you. C.S. Lewis once said, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." It doesn't matter how much time you think you've lost or how much the narcissist has tried to steal from you. Your purpose is still alive. This mindset is crucial because if you don't believe that you are needed, you will start to believe the lies that say you are replaceable, forgotten, or useless. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "What's the point? Does anything I do even matter?" That is exactly the trap the enemy wants you in. Knowing and applying this principle changes everything. When you know you are needed, you start living differently. You make decisions based on purpose, not pressure. You stop tolerating abuse because you recognize that you have something valuable to protect: your calling. So, what should you do when people around you act like you don't matter? When they dismiss your ideas, ignore your feelings, or treat you as if you're invisible? Instead of seeking their validation, remind yourself of who you are in Christ. God's opinion of you is the only one that truly matters. This principle will also help you appreciate the unique role you play in the lives of others. Sometimes when we are surrounded by negativity, we forget how much we mean to the people who truly love us. Think about it. Have you been so focused on the narcissist's cruelty that you've overlooked the people who actually value you? Now, let's look at a biblical story that illustrates this principle. Joseph and his brothers, Genesis 37-50. Joseph was mocked, betrayed, and even sold into slavery by his own family. He could have believed the lie that he was unwanted, useless, and forgotten. But God had a greater plan. Despite all the suffering he endured, Joseph rose to a position of power where he saved an entire nation, including the very brothers who tried to destroy him. The positive side? Joseph never lost sight of his purpose, and because of that, he fulfilled the destiny God had for him. His pain was not wasted. It was preparing him for something greater. The negative side? If Joseph had believed the lies of his brothers and given up, he would have never stepped into his God-given role. He could have lived as a slave in Egypt, broken and hopeless, instead of rising to the position God had for him. So, what can you do in a situation like this? Reject the lie that you don't matter. Ask God to reveal His purpose for you and start walking in it, no matter what others say. God has a plan for you. Do you believe it? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next principle. In the next chapter, we'll uncover another powerful way God acts when a narcissist wants you destroyed. You don't want to miss it. The 4. God shows you that you are loved, no matter what others say. Have you ever wondered why narcissists go out of their way to make you feel unworthy of love? Why they belittle you, make you question your value, and try to convince you that no one truly cares about you? It's because they know something powerful. When a person understands that they are loved, they become unstoppable. One of the deepest desires of every human heart is to be loved and accepted. We crave connection, security, and the assurance that we matter to someone. That's why rejection and emotional manipulation can be so painful. It attacks the very core of what we were created for. This principle has helped so many people break free from toxic relationships because it shifts their focus from seeking love from the wrong people to receiving love from God. The moment you realize that God's love is unshakable, unconditional, and unbreakable, the opinions of others lose their power over you. C.S. Lewis once said, "Though our feelings come and go, God's love for us does not." That's a truth you need to hold on to. People's opinions about you will change. Some will love you today and reject you tomorrow, but God's love, it remains constant. This mindset is crucial because if you don't believe you are loved, you will start looking for validation in places that only bring more pain. Have you ever found yourself trying to prove your worth to someone who only keeps pushing you away? That's exactly what the enemy wants, to keep you so desperate for approval that you never realize you already have it in God. Knowing and applying this principle is life-changing. When you understand that God loves you, you stop allowing toxic people to define your worth. You no longer need their approval to feel valuable. Instead, you walk in confidence, knowing that the Creator of the universe calls you His own. So what should you do when people act like you are unworthy of love, when they reject you, mistreat you, or make you feel invisible? Instead of begging for their love, receive the love that God is freely offering you. Spend time in His Word. Remind yourself of His promises and surround yourself with people who reflect His love. This principle will also help you appreciate the love that is already in your life. Sometimes when we are so focused on those who reject us, we overlook the people who genuinely care. Have you been so consumed by the narcissist's rejection that you've ignored the love God has placed around you? Now let's look at a biblical story that illustrates this principle. Hagar in the wilderness, Genesis 16 verse 1 to 13. Hagar was a servant mistreated by Sarah and forced to flee into the wilderness, feeling abandoned and unloved. She was pregnant, alone, and had nowhere to go. But in that lonely place, God met her. He called her by name, assured her of her future, and revealed Himself as El Roi, the God who sees. The positive side? Hagar realized that even when people rejected her, God still cared for her. She was not invisible to Him. His love sustained her and gave her hope for the future. The negative side? If Hagar had believed the lie that she was unloved and abandoned, she might have given up entirely. But because she encountered God's love, she found the strength to keep going. So, what can you do in a situation like this? Stop seeking love from those who refuse to give it, and start embracing the love that God is already pouring into your life. You don't need the narcissist's validation to be valuable. You are already deeply loved by God. God's love is the foundation of your strength. Do you believe it? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next principle. In the next chapter, we'll uncover another powerful way God acts when a narcissist wants you destroyed. You don't want to miss it. 5. God turns the narcissist's own plans against them. Have you ever wondered why narcissists always seem to manipulate situations in their favor? Why it feels like they always win, while you are left picking up the pieces? It can feel exhausting, frustrating, and even unfair, until you realize one powerful truth. God has a way of turning their own schemes against them. One of the things people deeply desire is justice. We want to know that evil doesn't go unchecked, that wrongdoers don't always get away with their cruelty. The good news? God is a just God, and He is not blind to what has been done to you. This principle has helped so many people hold on to faith in the middle of betrayal and mistreatment. When you understand that God sees everything and will deal with it in His perfect way and timing, you can let go of bitterness and trust that justice will come. C.S. Lewis once said, "The hardness of God is kinder than the softness of men, and His compulsion is our liberation." Sometimes it may seem like God is letting the narcissist succeed, but what He is actually doing is setting them up for their own downfall. He lets them believe they are in control, only to expose them when the time is right. This mindset is crucial because if you don't believe that God will deal with injustice, you might try to take matters into your own hands. Have you ever been tempted to get revenge, to expose them yourself, or to fight back in a way that goes against your character? That's exactly what the enemy wants. He wants you to get caught in the same toxic cycle. Knowing and applying this principle changes everything. When you realize that God will turn their own weapons against them, you stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. Instead, you focus on healing, growing, and letting God handle what only He can handle. So, what should you do when a narcissist's plans seem to be working, when they lie, manipulate, and deceive people against you? Step back and trust God's timing. The truth always comes out, and when it does, it will not be your doing, it will be God's justice in action. This principle will also help you appreciate the power of patience. Have you been so focused on wanting immediate justice that you've forgotten that God's justice is always perfect? His timing may not be yours, but when He moves, no one can stop it. Now let's look at a biblical story that illustrates this principle. Haman and Mordecai, Esther 5-7. Haman, a high-ranking official, despised Mordecai and plotted to have him executed. He even built gallows, fully expecting to have Mordecai hanged on them. But God had a different plan. In a shocking turn of events, the very gallows Haman built for Mordecai became the instrument of his own death. The positive side? Mordecai never had to fight for himself. God took care of everything. He stayed faithful, and in the end, justice was served in the most ironic way possible. The negative side? If Mordecai had taken matters into his own hands, he could have acted out of anger and ruined God's perfect plan. Instead, he trusted in God's justice, and that's what saved him. So what can you do in a situation like this? Let God handle the battle. Keep your heart clean, don't stoop to their level, and trust that God sees everything. The narcissist may think they are getting away with it, but in reality, they are walking right into their own trap. God is fighting for you. Do you believe it? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next principle. In the final chapter, we will tie everything together and reveal how to walk forward in victory. You don't want to miss it. Conclusion. Have you ever wondered why God allows you to go through such intense battles with narcissistic people? Why He doesn't just remove them from your life immediately? The truth is, every challenge you face is part of a greater plan, a plan designed not just to protect you, but to transform you. Throughout this story, we've uncovered 5 powerful ways God acts when a narcissist wants to destroy you. 1. God puts the right people in your life to break isolation. You are never as alone as the narcissist wants you to believe. 2. God gives you financial stability as a great gift. He ensures that your provision is not in the hands of those who seek to control you. 3. God reminds you that you are needed and have a purpose. Your existence has meaning beyond the lies they tell you. 4. God shows you that you are loved no matter what others say. His love is not dependent on human approval. 5. God turns the narcissist's own plans against them. No scheme of man can override His justice. Each of these principles has helped countless people regain their confidence, peace, and sense of worth. And now, it's time for you to fully embrace them in your own life. C.S. Lewis once said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." That includes the pain, the betrayal, and the attempts to destroy you. God is not just rescuing you from something. He is leading you toward something greater. So what should you do moving forward? Hold on to these truths. Whenever doubt creeps in, remember how God moves on behalf of His children. When people act the wrong way, don't waste energy trying to fix them. Focus on becoming the person God is calling you to be. This journey has prepared you for something greater. God is not just saving you from the narcissist. He is setting you up for a future that is free, joyful, and deeply fulfilling. Do you believe it? If this story has encouraged you, make sure to subscribe for more ancient, timeless wisdom. Your story is still being written, and with God on your side, victory is inevitable.